Oops. Oh, okay, I gotta share my screen. Here we go. All right, everybody see that? Okay. All right, well, welcome officially to our, didn't really know what to call this workshop. It's not really just ergonomics. I guess how to work from a computer without pain is kind of the thesis, I guess. But this is the Egoscue method, and I'll start with just something kind of funny. But how many of you can relate to this? Maybe right now, sitting in your chair while your back hurts. Well, it's kind of a joke, but it's also unfortunately all too common, especially these past couple of years when most people had to shift to working at home, right? And so now, I mean, you may have always had a desk job, but working at home, is even less ideal, I think, for several reasons. But maybe start to think about the way you're sitting and right now, or the way you typically sit. Do you sit with your legs crossed? Do you sit on your legs? Do you always lean to one side and rest on the armrest? Do you hunch over? Do you lean back? We'll talk about why or why not some of these things are bad or good, but just to get you start thinking about sitting, which we spend way too much time doing. And you've probably heard of sitting is referred to as the new smoking, and I just love some of these ways people are trying to vilify sitting as if it's like this evil thing, but the truth is sitting's not going anywhere, right? Like, we can try to avoid it as much as we can, but I don't see us becoming less sedentary anytime soon as a whole. So I think the real question to ask, which we'll talk about in a minute, is well, how can we make sitting less dangerous or less harmful for us? One of our vice presidents, Brian Bradley, always says this, and I really like it. He talks about sitting as a sport, so train for it. So, kind of extreme, but if you think about it, if you were spending, we'll just say 8 hours a day, which in reality, some of you may spend a lot more than that sitting. But if you were spending that much time doing any other activity, you would probably train for it, right? You can think of ourselves as professional sitters. So why are we not doing anything to make our bodies more efficient at it, or make it so that we can do that, without consequences? So that's what we're going to talk about today, so that you should leave here in an hour with a little bit more knowledge, a little bit of some tools that you can use to make sitting easier, less painful. Hopefully that leads to more productivity and, just a better work experience for you. So, all right, Kelly, you want to take it over?
Yeah. So, we talk about, well, what's the real problem? Is it really the sitting? Is it really the chair? Is it the number of hours in the chair? Is it the chair you're sitting in? Those kinds of things, right? Well, there's so much that goes into sitting in a chair. So most standard chairs that you get at your just general local store aren't necessarily the best ergonomic fit for most people. And they're usually made in a bad posture position. Now, I don't know if that's because they're conforming to a lot of the population does have incorrect slouchy posture. So they're just fitting the market, or if it's been like that and that's helped create the postures, who knows? Either way, it's a lot of the chairs are not helpful. So we're going to talk about in a bit, like chairs that are helpful and what to look for. But during the day, lack of body movement and sitting for 2, 4, 6, 8 hours at a time is definitely going to cause some tension, some tightness, some habits, that form in the body, some compensations, muscle compensations throughout the day. And I liked what he was saying, when you sit, do you sit with your legs crossed? Do you sit leaning over with your shoulder higher on your armrest? Are you sitting with your heels tucked underneath you and then with your feet on the rolly part of the chair and then you're tipping forward in your chair? Is your chair too short? A sign that your chair is too short is that, hey, your feet are on the ground, but if your knees are a little bit higher than your hips, your knees are going to go out to the side and your feet are going to roll to the outside edge. So that, is going to cause imbalances in your body. So, and then also just sitting like slouched under with your pelvis tucked under in kind of a posterior position and then leaning forward. They're all signs that your body doesn't have enough alignment to hold you upright for X amount of hours, however long you're requiring your body to sit. Okay. So your alignment that you sit in, all day long is going to, when you get up, still be with you. And you're going to take that posture and those habits to your daily activities, whether it's, walking the dog or doing dishes or going on a walk or whatever that is. So we want to jump to, okay, well, what's the solution for all that, right? Like, we can't quit our jobs. We can't not sit and do our work that we need to do when we need to do it. So we've got to start intervening in that, start training for that sitting posture. And I think one of the most important things to do is just to make sure you get, breaks throughout the day, regular breaks, whether you schedule them in, set timers like across the room that you have to get up and turn them on and off, the timers, so that you're getting up out of your chair half hour, every couple of hours, to get up and move and to do some Egoscue exercises or take a little walk. That is, one of the big, posture busters that you could do throughout the day is just take those movement breaks. Those alone are going to break up that patterning of sitting all day for X amount of hours in certain postures. Okay. And so doing those exercises, help prepare your body for the demands of sitting, to go back and forth and back and forth. And then, we have to talk about, well, what is good sitting posture? I mean, how many people have ever really been taught that or even know what that looks like? Or what a good chair, what components should be in a chair that is going to support your posture positively, right? And where do you get those? That kind of thing. So all really good things to think about when you're sitting all day.
Yeah,
Most people are like in their work and kind of checked out, and they're not really conscious about how they're sitting, but their body's giving them a really clear signal, aka pain, right? That something is off.
Yeah, I think I get this all the time with clients where we'll, they have their daily exercise or e-size, as we call it, routine that they do, whether that's first thing in the morning or in the evening. And I'll get feedback like, oh, well, I feel great after my exercises. And then, a couple hours later, after I'm been at work and sitting, usually my back starts to hurt again, or my pain comes back, and so most of the time in those cases, it just means like doing your exercises once a day is great, but you have to think about how much time you're spending doing something that's kind of detrimental to your posture versus something that's benefiting it. So if you want to balance the two, or hopefully have more good, positive things for your posture than negative, then it just means you have to do it more often. It doesn't mean you have to do hours of exercise each day to combat the hours of sitting. It doesn't take much. We'll show you a couple things at the end of the presentation today that will only take 4 minutes. That'll instantly, straighten you up. So sometimes it just means taking those breaks multiple times a day, just to combat all the time that you're sitting and not moving, and your muscles are just, your body needs to move. That's the gist of it. So if you're not moving, things are going to start to not feel great. So
freeze up. Yep. Get locked into habits. Okay, so let's talk about correct posture and correct sitting posture. So when you're sitting, first of all, let's talk about chairs, right? So the angle of the chair, the seat of the chair to the back of the chair, when you sit in that chair, you want your hips to be at 90-degree angle. Or if your chair, the actual seat tilts, you can tilt that seat downward. The pan of the chair tilts down, and then it actually opens up the hip angle a little greater than 90 to like 95, 100 degrees, because that actually will open the hips and then get you a little bit more of a curve in your low back. So if you do find chairs where the pan tilts, that's great. So, if your chair is too short and your legs are too long, your knees are going to be higher than your hips. And so just by position, if your knees are higher than your hips, your knees are going to fly out to the side and you're going to, be out of posture position no matter what. If you're 6 foot tall, a regular standard chair, 18 inches height, that's probably not going to be the right height for you. You've got to have a chair that's going to be able to raise up so that you can get your pelvis at 90 degrees or more and keep your feet flat on the floor. Okay. And then the back of the chair, you want to have, I love this picture because this purple part in the back, you can see how it has, an arch that perfectly fits into the small of his back and helps support that nice curve. Okay. And then the top part, it is open and it does not, go concave and pull the shoulders forward. It's actually open and convex and helps kind of pull the shoulder blades back and together and opens that chest plate up. A lot of chairs that I see today, they actually have maybe the lumbar part right where you're getting that S curve supported, but then the top part rounds forward and then has a big headrest that pushes your head forward of the gravity line. I mean, we've all been on an airplane, right? We know what those chairs look like. They're a posture disaster. Okay, so you definitely don't want, that's a good example of what you don't want for a desk chair. So if you look at the airline chairs and then you look at your desk chair and they look similar, out we go, in with the new, okay? The chair should be able to support you so that your hips are at 90 degrees, you have a nice S curve in your low back, and you're able to keep your shoulders down and relaxed and open so that you can breathe really well with your diaphragm, belly breathing, right? And then talking about like arm position, shoulder position, head and neck position. Okay. If your lower body is set up so that your feet are flat on the floor and hip width, your pelvis is at 90 degrees, your knees are at 90 degrees or slightly more open than 90, then your shoulders are going to fall back and down into position. And you want that arm bone, the upper arm bone, to rest right underneath the shoulder joint. And you do want to get that 90-degree angle at the elbow with the arms straight out from the elbow so that the wrist and the elbow are in a straight line, okay? Because that's going to help with the blood flow and the circulation, right? With the nerves and the arteries and veins coming, out of the chest into those arms. So you could tell if you're having carpal tunnel issues or any elbow issues, any shoulder issues, really take a look at that hand position and see, like, are you tipping your wrists back? Are you cutting off that blood supply and, pinching down on those muscles and ligaments, tendons, and nerves? You really want to keep that line straight so that everything can flow nicely and there's no squeezing of any of the tissues, okay? So there's two positions for that. There's straight and then there's down, but never up, okay? So in this picture, you can't see, but there are adaptations that you can buy, modifications for your desk that actually come out of the bottom of the desk. They hook into the bottom and then drop down and out the bottom so that you can pull your keyboard to you. So you have your chair, you're sitting in your chair in the correct posture, and then you pull that keyboard out to you so that you can keep this really good posture that's right on the screen. Now, whether you have armrests or not, you still want to go for the same angles, okay? And then when the lower body and the arm and everything are set in posture in good position with your chair and your keyboard, and there's a fair amount of measurement that might have to be done here so that you can get the right angles for your body, right? Um, and then in that good posture, in that position, then your head neck can sit squarely between your shoulders, atop and the top of your spine, sitting on both of your butt bones equally, right? And then if you don't have your screen in the right position, you could have your whole body in alignment, but your head's going to be tipping down because your screen is lower than your actual head. So I'm not saying you have to go out and buy all this fancy stuff, right? There's great cheap modifications that you can do at home and even install yourself. They actually have little stands that you can lift your screens up onto, okay? Or platforms, or you can even build something, put boxes, reams of paper, just get creative, right? So you want your monitor up eye level. You want your eye, the middle of your eye, about 2 to 3 inches below the top of your screen, so that when you're looking straight out, you're right in the middle or a little bit up from middle of your screen. So you're not having to look down and creating that strain on the neck muscles, okay? Another thing is if say you're 5 foot, 5'1", 2, 3, you have a shorter, more petite posture. A regular standard chair may not even go low enough for you to actually get your feet on the floor. I have had clients in the past with that same issue. And she was in graduate school, and she was having to study all the time, and then of course had all this tension, tightness, neck pain. Now, of course, doing your exercises during the day is helpful, but if you do them for a half hour, an hour, and then you go sit in a chair for 8 hours studying on and off throughout the day in a not good posture position, not supported, then obviously you're going to have tension, tightness, pain, right? So one thing that was really important for her was actually to get her feet elevated. So you can even get like little step stools and things to put under your feet if you have a shorter, more petite posture, to elevate the feet and get the knees again at that 90-degree angle, and the hips at that 90-degree angle. Because the goal is really to set yourself up so that you can sit back in your chair and let that chair support you, because the chair has a really good lumbar curve and has that open upper body plan. And then, your screen is set right, 2 to 3 inches from the top of the screen is where you want the middle of your eye to be. And then everything just, falls into place and feels so much better. One quick thing about perchers, right? So how many of you can raise your hand, or you can just put in the chat, like you sit forward in your chair, you're not actually sitting in the back, you're sitting forward a lot of the day. Well, that's fine, but you are going to get tired after a certain amount of time, right? And because I don't know that many people who can sit in this posture without back support for 2, 4, 6, 8 hours a day. So if you can sit in really good posture with shoulders above the hips at 90 degrees, knees at 90 degrees, feet flat and hip width, and put a little nice curve in your back, and you're going to hold that up. Yes, that is training good posture. That's great. And as soon as you get tired, you want to shove back to the back, put your back and your back of your legs, into that chair, then let that chair support you into that good posture. And you can go back and forth between the two positions. Just start to begin to notice, well, when do you start falling into those compensations, and when do you start sliding around or tipping side to side or tucking your feet underneath you and leaning forward. When you start to do some of those habits or compensations in your chair, you've gone past your limit. You need to sit back, let the chair support you. Okay.
Yeah, we had some comments in here.
Yeah.
Some good. Someone asked about, can this also apply to someone who drives in the car for a living?
Yes.
Which,
The hard thing about driving is that those seats in the cars are so not adjustable compared to your desk chairs. So that's where the frustration comes in. Because when you make modifications in your car seat, obviously you come up against a safety issue. So
Yeah, you can
My,
try to apply as much as you can, but ultimately it's cars are built differently, and you're probably going to be sitting too low, so your pelvis is posterior. You're not going to be able to sit up completely straight unless maybe if you're in a truck or something. But
yeah,
um, and then just the act of driving does not promote like you're using your right foot more than your left. Probably have one arm on the armrest and one arm
yeah.
doing something else. So
You're
it's
gonna
not
need
ideal,
support.
but
Yeah.
you just
You're
gotta,
a driver. You're gonna need support
yeah,
with exercises before and after.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Mhm.
you do it best you can. Try to mimic that same position, but just know it's just not going to be ideal.
Oh,
So get a car or a seat that's as comfortable as you can find. But
yeah. I know my seat does have the little lumbar air bag in it, so I pump that thing up as far as it'll go. And then mine actually does have the seat pan actually tilts a little bit, so I tilt that as far forward as I can. So you know, it's still minimal, but at least it's something. And even those little like half inch increments do make a difference.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can just get something external like a foam roll, or even like a rolled up
Towel.
towel or something, a pillow to put behind your low back to force it to stay a little straighter. But we also had a bunch of comments about glasses. So it sounds like there's,
Oh yeah.
I don't wear glasses on a computer, but there's special glasses for computer, which because someone was complaining about their bifocals, having that.
Yeah, they make you look down. Yep, totally.
So yeah, all things to consider. So
Yeah, and maybe you adjust your monitor according to your bifocals. Maybe that recommendation that I gave about you having the middle of your eye 2 to 3 inches below the top of the monitor, maybe you have to adjust a little higher or a little lower or something like that, so that when you do, I mean, a little bit of movement like this is great, but you don't want to have to be leaning forward or like tipping so far up that it's crunching your neck all day. So, I would probably put it at a height that gives you a comfortable range of motion to go between um, the two prescriptions, because they are different. Totally get that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have a slide on this, but standing. I'm sure some of you have
Oh yeah.
used or use standing desks, which you basically apply the same principles. You're just the bottom half of your body is now vertical instead of horizontal. So, but you still want the computer screen at that roughly that same angle. Still try to have your keyboard resting so your elbows are bent at right angles and you're not like way up here
Yeah.
leaning
People tend to
forward.
get up like this when they're standing because their desk height is not at the right height. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and as far as which is better, I mean, honestly, if you have a sit to stand desk that can do both, I think it's great to just mix it up and do a little bit of both, because it's really not great to stand all day and not move either. It
No,
may,
you can create varicose veins and
yeah,
other imbalances from
yeah,
standing all day.
it's so sitting all day or standing all day, neither is ideal. So you can just mix it up, find different positions. Another great option is if you don't have like a great chair, and you just can't get it to support you like you need to, is like we talked about, just taking more breaks from the chair, but also maybe mixing it up. And I wouldn't necessarily sit on this 100% of the time, but like sitting on a big, like a yoga ball, or they make those chairs where you're kind of kneeling. I don't know if you've seen those.
We have some really good stools too.
Like it's more like a
We have some
stool.
really great ergonomic stools that actually, when you sit on them, do a really good job of getting you in a good posture position just by design. So
Yeah,
those are worth looking into too if you kind of like to be in that half seated, half standing. And it's a good kind of compromise if you have that sit to stand desk.
yeah. So just maybe mixing it up more and just getting more variety of different positions during the day is also good. So you're not just stuck in one position all the time. So
And I think you can tell, like, if you're sitting in this position right here, the correct posture position, you're going to have more blood flow, more oxygen to the tissues, to the brain, to the organs. You're going to have more energy sitting in that position for longer periods of time. Your body has to work really hard to do basic functions and be detail oriented when you're slouching or you're leaning or you're tucking your buns under, and your spine is in a C curve position. It cuts down the amount of oxygen in the blood flow in the body. So and then that's when you get pain, right? How many of you have neck pain or shoulder pain or nerve pain down the arms or low back pain when you sit, or hip pain or knee pain? Because when you sit, you tuck your feet under, or your knees go out to the side, and then you roll to the outside edges of the feet, and then your knees are out of alignment all day, right? Or you lean forward in that chair and your back muscles are on and working in a forward position, holding on for dear life all day as you're leaning forward, or your keyboard's at the wrong position and your shoulders are up into your ears, right? Pain is just a signal that there's something in your body that's out of alignment, and it's letting you know, hey, there's a stress in the system that needs to be corrected. It's the only way your body can talk to you. It's the only way it can let you know that the check engine light is on, right? Warning, make adjustments. And I think it's so funny how, we all go get our eyes checked, we get our teeth checked, we go have our physicals and everything. But how many of us really go in and get our muscular skeletal system checked every year routinely to see, hey, do we look like this house? Is our alignment, is our muscular skeletal system actually holding our bones in alignment, in position? I'm not sure who decided, muscular skeletal health wasn't part of like general health, but I think it's pretty important, because when your house looks like this, your shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles aren't in alignment, and everything is
Yep.
tipping and turning and twisting, there's not a lot of integrity in the system. So, all the systems are affected by that. The foundation is off, and, your circulatory system's affected, your respiratory, your genital, cardiovascular, everything is affected. So, a lot of us already know that, our musculoskeletal health is important, and we even have clues already. One, the pain, aka pain, is a clue, right? That, hey, our alignment's off. There's stress in the system in one area that's getting, over accentuated or exacerbated and needs attention, right? But also some of us may know, like we think to ourselves, or we notice it when we look in the mirror when we walk, or we limp, or hey, one shoulder's lower than the other, my bra strap falls down, or my pant legs are higher on one side, or I wear the bottom of my shoes out, like I wear the inside edge but not the outside edge, or I always wear the heels out, those are all signs and that point to, hey, we're out of balance, right? So this is what balance posture looks like. So we've got 8 load-bearing joints and 2 shoulders, 2 hips, 2 knees, and 2 ankles, and with a spine and a 6 to 8 pound head in the middle of that spine. And we're the only upright biped. So in a gravity-filled environment, which is amazing. Like our bodies are like defying gravity every second of every minute, every day. And posture is subconscious. You're not thinking about how you're sitting and standing all day. You're thinking about executing tasks, right? And getting things done. And your brain tells the muscles, your muscles tell the bones what to do. Hey, we're walking to the store. We're going on a bike ride. We're going to sit and do work today. Your brain and your muscles configure everything that needs to happen in order for you to execute those tasks, right? So level shoulders, level hips, knees pointing straight ahead, feet hip width and straight ahead, equal distance from the midline of the body. The thumb and the side of the pointer finger, when you look into the mirror, should be facing the mirror. You shouldn't see fingers, like more fingers facing in the front view than just the side of the pointer finger and the thumb. The right angles and straight lines make a big difference for the body in how it functions in all ways, all systems, specifically the musculoskeletal. And remember, your muscular skeletal system is the big system that that is in charge of everything, right? Without your muscles, you would just be bones and organs laying on the floor. So they're super important to make sure that your muscular skeletal health is really high on your take care of self list, because without good posture and without those muscles and bones in the right position, your organs and all your other systems are being compromised. So from the side view, you want to check in the mirror or take your own posture photos and see, is my ear in line with my shoulders, my shoulder above my pelvic girdle, is on my upper body in line on top of my knee joint, on top of the ankle joint. Do my elbow and my wrist lay in that straight line, or are they rounded forward in front of my thighs, right? Do I have a nice S curve in my spine, or am I rounded forward at the shoulders with my head pushed, or is my pelvis pushed forward of the gravity line? You know, those are things to think about.
Got a good question in here.
Yeah.
Reen asked about, can we talk a little bit more about the correct position of the pelvis, specifically sitting? And she also says, why does my body insist on crossing my legs one side over the other? You know, it's always one side that she favors. So do you want to answer that?
Oh yeah, sure. So I mean, I see leg crossing more, particularly in women. It's a habit that we've all been taught from a really young age. I see it too in men, but it's really more prolific in women. But also the posture goes along with that. A lot of women have posture where the knees come closer together and then the feet kind of come further apart at the bottom, which is called a valgus stress, like this. And or it's kind of a pencil, right? Like they come all the way together, they stay together at the feet, and they have a really narrow stance, right? And so if you stand up and you look at yourself in the mirror, right, which we're going to take a look at ourselves here in a bit, at our postures, and start putting on our own posture goggles and become our own posture therapists, right? So that means your inner thigh muscles are shorter and tighter, and they're actually doing more of the work to stabilize for you when you're sitting, when you're standing, when you're actually being mobile. So when you sit, the same thing applies. You're going to cross your legs because those inner thigh muscles get shorter and tighter, and they're on for you to hold you upright, right? So I always tell people, whenever you catch yourself crossing your legs, it's like, start becoming aware. Hit the light switch. As soon as you notice, undo it, put your feet flat on the floor, hip width and parallel. And you're always going to cross in one direction, because usually one side of your pelvis has a little bit of an imbalance. Either it's tipped forward, it's elevated, it's rotated. So you're just going to fall right into that habit and right into that pattern, because subconsciously, you know, your body knows that that's your most stable, balanced position in the habit that you have created over time. So that's where, you know, at Egoscue, we start looking at the postures, we start thinking about how we're sitting. We're bringing posture conscious out of the subconscious mind into the conscious mind, so that we can take an active role and start shifting the posture through and with the exercises. You know, and that's really the magic with Egoscue.
Yeah. And so I think the couple people chimed in about agreeing that
Yeah.
they have one side that they favored across, and yeah, it can usually be traced back to something in the whole body alignment, typically with your pelvis. And so, and you can also think about other things that may have led to that. You know, like you can't always trace it to one thing. I mean, your posture is controlled or affected by everything you do, really. But I see it a lot with women, especially who've had kids, and you know, you carry the baby on one side more than the other, typically, right? Probably
Or a backpack or a purse.
it's on one side more than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you end up with, you know, your pelvis kind of gets stuck in that elevated position, and so when you sit, you know, your hips aren't level to begin with, so it's going to be more comfortable to cross, just to kind of balances it out. So the solution, of course, is to, you know, go after those imbalances and try to get your body muscles as balanced as you can, so that your pelvis is straighter, and then it should be just as comfortable to cross one way as the other. But you know, ideally, you're not spending too much time with your legs crossed. I don't think there's anything wrong with crossing your legs, you know, in general. But if that's the only way you sit, yeah, it can be an issue. So
A functional body should be able to do anything throughout the day and move and shift into positions and not have residual pain. But if you find yourself falling into habits over and over and over, then you know that's a sign already that there's an imbalance and you have pain, right? Like they go kind of hand in hand. But I think you said there was also a question about what position should the pelvis be in when you sit.
yeah,
Well, ideally, you want it, with that lumbar support, with a arch, and then you want those shoulders above those hips. So, um,
can you
that's
show?
kind of
Can you?
yeah, that's the determining factor. I mean, you can go back to the slide too. Um, can you see me, Zach, sitting?
Yeah, scoot back a little bit more,
Back
or
a
tilt
little
your
bit
camera
more?
down.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
this chair is not ideal. It's an IKEA chair and it has great wheels and everything, but I actually feel good in this chair because one, I do my posture exercises and I have good posture in general. So I can sit in a chair that's not necessarily perfect, um, and feel good, right? So with my butt all the way back, my shoulders above my hips, I'm here and then I just relax my belly. That's really important that you're not sucking and tucking and shutting down your diaphragm and flattening your spine during the day. Letting your belly hang out and taking those deep belly breaths throughout your day is so helpful for the curve in your low back and your spine. When you do have that curve and you are belly breathing, the shoulders are just going to fall down gently and naturally on the top of that curve and down together. They're going to settle and relax. So I don't even have a lumbar curve in this chair, but because I'm back and I'm here, like I'm automatically already there without even forcing it.
So if your chair doesn't have a good support, so if let's say you're sitting in just a basic chair that's just like a 90
Yeah,
degree
like a folding type chair.
yeah, folding chair or something, you can scoop forward in your seat a little bit so you're not touching that backrest, and then just tilt your pelvis forward, or think about kind of sticking your tailbone out or sticking your butt out so your low back has a little curve to it. Just like when you stand, you should naturally have a little curve there, right? So we want to try to achieve the same thing when you're sitting. So whether that's supported with the chair or just actively holding it there, which obviously takes more energy and effort, so you can't do that all day, but that's the position you want to be in. You don't want to be rounded in your spine or flat. You want slight curve in your lower back. So hopefully that answers the question. If not, let us know. Let's see. Can't believe it's a year ago that you had the foot and ankle webinar. After 60 years of wearing heavy Frankenstein shoes with hard inserts for support, I switched over to Zero and Bevo barefoot. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How are you liking those shoes? How's it working out for you, John? That's, for those who don't know, that's a more like a minimalist shoe, like a barefoot style, where they're flat, very thin, no support, wide toe box. So went out early. That's okay. That's good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Side
Good information. Yeah. The whole other workshop that we could do on footwear, which, hey, we might do that next. Thanks for the heads up. Good topic for next month, right?
Yeah. So now that we've talked about kind of what the ideal looks like and everything, let's put this into practice. So we're going to analyze someone else first. So I'm not going to put any of you on the spot, but this is a real client, so we can practice, assessing posture. So this is where you can unmute or put it in the chat, but just let's list off some things that we see different or off, less than ideal with this guy's posture. Okay, and we've got a red line there showing where the gravity line should be. All right, so what do we see? Must be perfect.
How might he feel when he sits?
Okay.
Right. This is the question.
Yeah, head is forward, right? Because remember, the ear should be on the line, and it's not even close, right? Going below that, is it just his head that's forward? core is not in line. Yeah, so meaning his kind of midsection or his pelvis is pushed forward. Hands are showing too much fingers, right? So from the front, remember Kelly mentioned your hands should rest at your side. So from the front, you should only see the thumb and first finger. If you're seeing the backs of the hands, the knuckles, it means your arms are internally rotated or twisted in, rounded, as we say, and exposing the hands. So yeah, good.
Barbara Blake, huh? Barbara.
Does he look symmetrical from that front view? Does he look symmetrical, right and left side? Is that line centered? It is.
No, it's like shifted to the right, or his right side is over in some way. Trying to figure that out.
Yeah, so we reference from the bottom, so you notice the crosshairs equal distance between his ankles. So that should be the midpoint. Like that's the center of his where his feet are touching the ground, but everything above that is shifted actually to his left. And yeah, so by the time it gets up to his head, you can see it how off center he is. So think about how that might be affecting really any of his joints. I mean,
how might he sit in his chair?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, does he lean to one side in his chair? That would be a question that I would ask him if he were coming into me. Like, how are you sitting? What's your day job, right? Like, that could absolutely create a posture like that. Or is he drive and does he lean to one side on the armrest?
Yeah. So yeah. Anybody see anything else they wanted to mention? People can relate to shifting sideways in their chair. You know, you think about, well, do I always shift to the same side, or probably?
Actually, I'll make a comment. On the side view, I think that looks very much like my side view, because you're always looking like you're leaning forward, and I start to try and lean backwards to level up, and it's like, whoa, I can't hold that balance.
No. Yeah, and that's such a good educational point, what you said, Abo, right?
Yes.
That you don't want to try to consciously shift the posture by trying to stand up straighter or trying to force your feet straight. Because if you do that, you're actually going to cause more pain and more discomfort. You can, by tipping back, you're going to compress the spine and you're going to put some pressure onto that low back. If your feet are out and you try to straighten them, but your knees are still pointing out and your feet are straight now, you're going to cause knee pain, right? So that's, and you're going to get really tired trying to stand that way or walk that way. And it won't be sustainable. So at Egoscue, I always remind my clients every single day that the exercises do the work for you. They're going to change the posture subconsciously and consciously. And you don't have to think about it. The end result will be, oh my gosh, I'm actually sitting in my chair and it feels really good. And when I even think about sitting in those old habits and postures, they don't even feel good anymore because the deep core posture muscles are now online. They're talking to each other and they're supporting you the way that you're supposed to be supported. One thing I just want to make sure I don't forget to say too is that, remember, sitting is the most compressed position for the spine. So when you're sitting, there's that more compression in the vertebrae and the discs than when you're standing or any of the other positions. So if you're having pain sitting, that's really telling about, the level of compression that you're having. And there's exercises to help that so that you can feel better in that seated, more compressed position in the long run. Sorry, Zach, go ahead.
Good. So, all right, here's the same guy. Obviously looks different now. But what specifically, what changed? What can we see different about his posture now? This is after, it wasn't that, I'd have to look up the dates, but I'm going to say it was less than a couple months. I mean, just a matter of weeks, probably. Head is back, the core is in line. Yep, so that side view, remember. Let's see.
Yeah. I like how the line is straight through the middle of his nose and his sternum and the middle of his forehead now. Before, that line was like through his other eyeball.
Yeah. Right, so straightened out both from the sides and from the front. not shifting his weight to the one side anymore. Hips
So
are
much more
level.
efficient here, so much more energy, less energy expenditure in the body to sit like this, stand like this, move like this. There's so much more function available to the body when the right and left side and front to back are more symmetrical. It frees up energy in the system.
Yeah, and someone mentioned his hands are still turned in. Yeah, so he's not perfect. He still has some work to do, but he can, I mean, miles ahead of where he was here, right? So
Like even his belly is like, not protruding as far out, and he's not all slumped down and slouched, right? When you slump down and slouch, it pooches out your tummy, it lowers your chest, and when you get your posture upright and in position, you actually, the belly moves in and the curve is there and the chest comes up and out and the shoulders go down and back, right? I think a really important thing to remember is that you don't have to look like the, posture Freddie here. You don't have to look perfect and you don't live in a bubble. There's no way you could look perfect, right? You'd have to do serious like hours on that to get there. But that's not the point to get perfect. The point is to get more symmetrical. He has results at this point that are off the charts, phenomenal, extremely better than when he came in. Just because his body is now working together as a unit, it's more symmetrical right to left. The right muscles are doing the right thing at the right time.
yeah, that's the thing to remember. Some people just think, well, maybe you just told him to stand up straighter, right? But whenever we take the pictures, it's always, we try to get people to stand just as relaxed and without thinking about it. We have them kind of march in place, close their eyes sometimes, and just stand how they feel comfortable. So it's the muscles that are just doing things differently. It's not just a matter, like Kelly was saying, it's not just a conscious effort, because one, that's unsustainable. You can't just force yourself to stand up straight all day, every day, but you can retrain what the muscles are doing so that by default in a resting state, they are in a better position. So that's a really good comment from Jan. She said, I started Egoscue when working from home. When I went back to the office, my desk chair no longer fit. I had to get rid of the extra lumbar support that I'd added as I no longer needed it. It was one of the first ahas that I had that Egoscue was really working. So that's awesome, because I'm assuming before you had that lumbar support because your spine probably didn't have its natural curvature, right? So you had to kind of add some external device, pillow or whatever to support your lumbar. And then after doing the Egoscue work, your posture changed, your S curve in your spine was restored. And so when you went back to that chair, it probably felt uncomfortable, right? Like you didn't need that extra support there. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to address too what Deb said. She said, he looks really good, but why do you think his hands aren't more open? Why haven't they changed more? And I say this to every client who comes in. It's so important to understand that your posture photos, like why in the world would we take them? Why are they important? Well, they're a snapshot in time of every single thing you've done up until this moment. Everything, every piece of stimulus you've taken in from your environment 24/7. And it is a really clear roadmap to your muscle imbalances, your muscle compensations, and your muscular dysfunctions, right? And so when we can see that you're out of alignment, then it gives us direct access to what exercises you need to do in order to reverse that and continue to keep combating, right? The fact that you do have a job and you do have to sit all day, and that, hey, your arms are going to be like this while you're typing, right? So maybe he does sit and type for a living. So he's always going to be doing exercises that are for the rest of his life to help keep him in alignment and out of that posture, right? And he needs to, so that he can feel better and sit stronger and be more functional.
Yeah, I think for him, if you look, I mean, he's wearing a shirt now, so it kind of hides the shoulder, but you can see before here, his shoulder's definitely in front of that line. And now it's not, it's back more. And so his humerus, his upper arm bone from the shoulder to his elbow, is at a better angle now. It's like pretty much vertical. So we still see the hands though. It looks like because his forearms, his actual from the elbow to the hand is turned in. And like Kelly said, probably just because of all the work on the computer, on our phones, driving. I mean, think about everything you do is typically palms down. So could be something coming from, below his elbow too. But yeah, and I would say in general, I almost don't see anybody who has shoulders that are not rounded, or I guess I should say,
I've never met one
yeah, everybody has some shoulder rounding.
ever in 18 years.
So it's a hard thing to get rid of just because of our modern lifestyle, I think. And like I said, this was only a matter of weeks or months. So, if you're doing it for years, then maybe you could see even better improvements. But yeah. Tom asked, what about how to sit in bed before going to sleep, as in reading before sleeping?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, right? But I think I would probably.
I like those upright readers where it brings your book upright, so that it's instead of down.
Yeah, because there you're probably cranking your head forward quite a bit to be able to see your book, right?
Yeah.
So
there's also those wedges you can get for your bed, so that you're like at an angle. It's a wedge and you lay on it. And so your feet are flat, your knees are bent, and then your body's up the wedge. So it's like supporting you in an upright kind of wedged position. If you don't have a bed that like has a mechanical that will lift the body up, like a hospital bed. So, those angles are better. And then if you can, like keep your elbows down on the back of the bed or on the slant, and then have that book there so that you can keep your head in line with your shoulders and read, right?
Yeah, so you may not be able to hit 100% of those points on this ideal sitting position, but if you can get, maybe 80% up there, it's better than nothing. And or maybe it just means if you feel like your neck gets kind of stiff after that before bed, maybe between reading and actually going to sleep, maybe you just need to stand up and do a stretch or two, or do something to kind of reset again, So, all right. So I just wanted to show a couple more examples, real life people.
How many have kids or grandkids like this?
Yeah, this guy, teenager, and it's pretty, it's sad, but most kids now look like this, honestly. Not everybody, but yeah. Yep. So, you can just see how his body is kind of conformed to that sitting posture, head forward, pelvis tucked, knees bent. It's just like we took him out of the chair and didn't quite fully straighten him up again. But you can see, the green shirt after a few weeks of doing Egoscue, his once again, it's not perfect, but this is just showing how quickly it can change. Shoulders are farther back, his head is farther back, his back is straighter, so it affects people young and less young. We've got this lady also showing pretty bent over posture relating to her work, which I believe was not on a computer, but actually out manual labor, like in a field and farms. This was from our sister clinics in Japan. But it just shows how even super dramatic postures that you think is just, beyond help can still improve. So,
training the body into a new habit, right? Your posture is an accumulation of everything you've done up until now. But if you take that first step and you start doing Egoscue exercises to retrain the posture on a consistent basis, you're going to interrupt that posture habit that you've created and start a new one. And the more consistent you are, the more the muscles realign, re-engage, and create more function and balance and alignment for you. So that's really the key, is starting now, starting today, like we're going to give you 3 exercises here in a minute. Take them and run with them. And if they don't work for you, find new ones, call us, right? Because like it's about interrupting this posture cycle and starting a new habit. That's how the body and the brain work.
Yeah. So perfect segue into, now we're going to give you a couple things to try out. And so these won't require any equipment. Well, I guess you'll need a chair, which you all have. So we'll do first a little self-assessment. So if you stand up and if you're wearing shoes, ideally, if you can, take them off. Socks are fine to keep on, but so we're going to get a baseline here. We don't have time to take everybody's posture photos, but you can just self-assess by getting a sense of how you feel. And so I want you to just stand in place, maybe march in place a couple times, shake out your arms and legs. Don't look at your feet, but just put them where they feel is natural for you. And then close your eyes and just relax, and then get a sense of what you feel in the bottoms of your feet. So first of all, do you feel the same thing on your right and your left? Or you might feel heavier on one side. You might feel like you have the weight more on the front of the foot, or maybe the front of one foot and the back of the other foot. It might feel more on the inside edge or the outside edge. So just kind of get a self-assessment. There's no right or wrong here. It's just collecting information. But go ahead and just a couple people share what you feel in your feet right now. Does it feel the same or different, balanced, imbalanced? You can either type it in the chat or unmute yourself, please. Inside of left and outside of right. Perfect. Very typical. So then you can start to think, okay, well, why am I feeling that? Maybe I think to the picture of the example posture we had, he was shifting to one side, so that would potentially make it feel like the weight's on the outside of one foot and inside of the other. More pressure.
The weight on my feet feel pretty equal. Doesn't mean I'm equal, but that's how my feet feel.
Yeah, it's good. That's what we want. So let's see. More pressure in the front, more on the left. So see, everybody's a little bit different, and this is just one way to check, but so just make a mental note of whatever you feel right now. We're going to take you through a couple things. The first is, so this is going to be good for if you think about when you're sitting all day and think of the position of your hips, your knees are bent in front of you, right? So your hips are in flexion, and your back probably too. So this is a way to take you out of that hip flexion position. So you're going to need, you could use your chair or maybe your desk. You want something that's about as high as, taller than your knees, but maybe not as high as your hips. So I'm going to use maybe the armrest of this chair. Okay, and you want something to hang on to. So you could hang on to your desk. I'm just going to use the wall here so you can see. But you'll put the chair behind you, hang on to something for support. Put your foot up on top of there, and then look down at your feet or your foot. That foot on the ground should point straight forward. And then this leg should be vertical. So you want your knees to line up with each other, meaning you don't want it out in front of you like this or behind you like that. So get the knees lined up, stand up tall, and then you're going to tuck your pelvis under. So think about flattening your back or kind of squeezing your glutes. Relax your shoulders, and you should feel a stretch on the front of the leg that's bent. So it's going to be your quads stretching. You may feel it all the way up into the front of your hip. So let me take a look at everybody.
Make sure to pick a height that you put that foot up behind you on that is just the right height for you, right? So that it's not causing cramping or you don't have the ability to tuck your butt under and kind of shift your pelvis a little bit. If it's too high, you'll cramp, and then you also won't be able to tilt the pelvis. So pick a height that's just right for you.
That's what I just did. That was a cramp in my hamstring behind the
Yeah,
high
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It's also a really good point. Like, why would you get a cramp in your hamstring? Well, because your pelvis is out of alignment. And when you put that foot too high, the hamstring's not used to actually being asked to engage in that level of alignment. So it's going to go, oh, and it's going to seize up. Yeah.
So that was about a minute. Let's go ahead and try the other leg now. So
Yep.
your other
And
foot.
try to keep the torso square and the pelvis square to the wall in front of you. It's really hard to do if you're grabbing behind you and pulling that leg up. If you can put your foot on a chair, the seat of a chair behind you, and then hold on to the wall, great. That's perfect, Tom. Love that. Cramping here too high, nothing the right height here, that's okay. If nothing's the right height, just stand with your feet straight, hip width and parallel, and relax your shoulders and squeeze and release your butt muscles. Just squeeze and release your butt muscles. That's going to open up your pelvis. It's going to rotate your femurs. So it's a good substitute if you can't do this one.
Yeah, and notice also, do you feel different on one side than the other? Did one hip feel tighter, or one maybe it was easier to get one leg up there than the other? So that's a sign that maybe muscles are imbalanced side to side. Okay.
You might need two different heights for both of your legs. One has to be lower to get the stretch, and the other one can go higher. Well, there's a really good insight into your imbalance in your pelvis and your leg muscles. And over time, progress and results will be when both feet can be at the same height behind you, you can tuck under and feel a stretch equally on both sides of your thighs and pelvis.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one, we're still going to be standing because these are things, by the way, you can do from your desk or taking a break from your desk. So you've been sitting all day, so let's stand up still. So first of all, looking at your feet, for any standing exercise, you want your feet to be right under your hips, which means really at the big toes, you should only be about a fist or maybe a little bit more than that between your big toes. And the feet should be dead straight ahead. So look at the center of your foot, not your big toe, but look at the middle of your foot, imaginary line there. Those should be pointed straight forward, okay? Hands are gonna go like this. We call it the golfer's grip. So you take your fingers straight, but then just curl them in. So it's not a closed fist like this. The first knuckle is still straight and your thumbs are out, okay? Arms down at your side. Pull your shoulder blades back and down so that they're kind of away from your ears, and then raise your arms up so your thumbs are pointed forward. This, okay, and then you're going to circle forward, so the direction your thumbs are pointed, and you want to go kind of quickly on this one. So about that fast, about that big, you know, think like a small plate sized circle with your hands. Look here.
You want to go fast enough that your body rocks back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
This helps your pelvis to find center of gravity again and get your pelvis underneath your shoulders and your spine where it should be. Talking and communicating.
And your arms should be about shoulder height, or you could go slightly lower than that if that's too hard on your shoulders, but just the main thing is keeping them back, and definitely keep those feet straight too.
Yep, lock the elbows, pinch the shoulder blades down and together like you have a little rubber ball between your shoulder blades, and you want to pinch it and hold it while you circle. Don't drop it.
Yeah. Okay. Take a quick rest. Shake out your arms. And now we're going to do it backwards. So same thing. Check your feet. Make sure they haven't moved. Same grip, but this time rotate thumbs back. So your palms are facing straight up. You're going to circle the other way. Okay. Let's do about 40.
This one might be more challenging because you're, really used to being rounded forward. And when you roll your hands and palms backwards and up towards the ceiling, that opens up those shoulders and chest and head and neck position. Might be tighter, might be more imbalanced.
Yeah, so you're probably feeling it in your shoulders, and we're focusing on the shoulders because, like I said, most people have shoulder issues and upper back doesn't. needs some improvement. So last one we'll do, same standing position, same grip with your hands. We're just going to put our knuckles right here behind your eyes. So on your temples, thumbs are pointed down. Now this grip is important because that keeps your wrists locked. So when we bring our elbows in front, touch, bring them back. Think about trying to reach the touch behind you as well. Obviously, they're not going to go that far, but just go back as far as you can and forward as far as you can. And notice my wrist isn't bending, right? This stays straight the whole time. I'm just moving at the shoulder joint.
You can also do these standing with your back to the wall.
Yeah.
As a template.
That way it'll keep your head, your back, your hips and heels.
Yeah. Yep, the back of a door. Perfect. Good, Abo. Yep. Tom, nice. Get those elbows equally touching together. You don't want one elbow higher than the other, right? That's the imbalance. So if you notice that, just square it up, bring it down into position.
Good. So you can do maybe 20 of those guys, should be plenty. You should have a good burn in your shoulder muscles by now.
Don't forget to breathe. Breathing's super important. Do that belly breathing when you do your exercises. You'll get 10 times more out of your exercises by belly breathing through them.
Yeah, okay. Nice job. Let's go ahead and reset. So don't sit down quite yet. We're gonna reassess our weight distribution now, see if anything's different. So march in place a little bit, shake it out. Relax, close your eyes, breathe, and just check in with your feet again. Remember what you were feeling earlier and just let's see what feels different. So who feels something different?
I see more smiles. Does that count?
Feel good, huh?
It feels more even along. I mean, it still feels centered, but it feels more even front and back.
Nice. That's good. Let's see. Inside of right has more weight now. Barbara.
These are all tools for you. You're learning life skills right now. How to assess your posture and your musculoskeletal system. You have been empowered with the tools. Anytime you stand up and you assess your posture, you are becoming your own, diagnosing and treating your posture expert. So this is a way to know what's happening or not happening, or what needs addressed or what doesn't, right?
I must say it's subtle, but maybe a little odd and maybe a little exciting. When I stand, I'm noticing that my chest and shoulders feel a little up and back a little more.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm not trying to do that, but there's just this openness I'm feeling.
That's right. And how easy is it to take a breath now? That's the other thing. Take a breath and then do 3 exercises, take another breath. How much easier was it? Could you do a better belly breath more than just a chest breathe, right? Because that's the least efficient way to breathe.
Yeah. So now when you go sit down, back down in your chair, see what feels different in your chair. The chair didn't change. It's still probably the same old cheap chair, unless you already have a really nice chair maybe. But sit in that same chair and notice, it should feel a little more comfortable, right?
Yeah. Or maybe in your bad chair feels awful and you're like, get me out of this rig, right?
I really want to lean forward.
Yeah.
It should be easier, right? Because now we've woken up. Now that wasn't like a complete fix for everything, obviously, right? We're just giving a few examples. Those are things that you can easily do during the day. Takes literally a couple minutes and will instantly change your body for the better. So use that as often as you'd like.
You do those 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, even just 1 or 2 times throughout the day during your working day. Oh my gosh. Trust me, more energy, more balance, more alignment, more function, better breathing, more energy. I mean, I can't even tell you. I mean, it's just as important to brush your teeth, get a drink of water when you're thirsty, and get something to eat when you're hungry. It's just as important to address your musculoskeletal system when you're in pain or discomfort or uncomfortable by doing some exercises. It's no different.
Yeah. So I know we're running a little over here, so thanks for everybody who's still on the call. But we wanted to give you some things now that you can do with the knowledge you just gained. So so you might be coming out of this, it's kind of brand new or skeptical still want to learn more before you make a decision about trying this. I would suggest reading the book Pain Free. So if you just Google Pain Free Egoscue, I think even if you just type Pain Free, it'll be the first thing that comes up.
I would get the new revised version as well. I think it's just more applicable and more pertinent to today's postures and ways of thinking. So get the new version.
Yeah, so it was written by our founder, Pete Egoscue, and it's a great way to learn a little bit more about the method, how it came about, why it works, and why you have pain. And then there's a chapter dedicated to each body part. So if you've got back pain or neck pain or carpal tunnel or plantar fasciitis, there's stuff in there you can do to start treating those things right away. But just keep in mind, it's a book, it's generic. It's not going to be the same as working one-on-one with someone, but it's a good place to start, and it's very inexpensive. So now, if after today, you're feeling like, oh, this is great, this makes sense, I felt something good with the exercises we did, or I can relate to, the stuff we saw on the screen there with other people's posture, but I'm still kind of curious about how this would really work for me and my situation, which is unique. We all have different backgrounds, different situations, different problems. So Kelly and I are here to help. And so we're offering a free posture evaluation for anybody who is curious to learn more. What we'll do is take your photos, put the lines on there so you can see exactly where things are off. And we can talk about how that relates to any symptoms you have and come up with a plan of how to start fixing that. So
I want to make a quick thing right here that 5 people with the same pain, like all have knee pain, right? Or all have back pain. And they come in for an appointment and the posture evaluation. Everybody's posture is going to look different because everybody has done something in their life differently. Like this person was a construction worker. This person, sat at a desk. This person was a gardener. This person, all these different things, right?
Yeah.
So just because they have knee pain doesn't mean they're all going to have a one size fits all set of exercises for knee pain. There's no such thing. So everybody's posture gets treated individually when they come in, just so you know.
Yeah, right. Good reminder. So, and then of course, the final option is if this is something that you would really like to do and you've got some postural issues or some pain that you'd like to get rid of once and for all, we're here to help you guide you to that by teaching you these things and helping you understand your bodies and teaching you the exercises specific for your situation. And as a thank you, we're offering 10% off any therapy program you do. So these are the prices. We've got 2 different packages that you can choose from. And on our first session, we will, of course, have a better idea of what you're dealing with and we can make a recommendation. But and then, yeah, the discount's only good for a week from now, though. So you need to let us know soon so we can't offer that discount forever. So, but just a quick overview of what that looks like, 8 sessions or 16 sessions. The first session usually takes about an hour and a half. It's pretty, it's all one-on-one. We'll go through your health history and talk about your current situation, where you've been, where you're at, where you'd like to be. Then we'll go through the assessment like we talked about. We'll take photos. We'll also look at how you walk, how you move, how you balance, just to figure out what the real problem is. That's ultimately the first step, is we have to figure out the why you have pain. And then the solution, of course, is we'll give you the exercises, show you how to do them, go through them with you together. So when you leave the appointment, you'll have instructions on video, pictures, and written down so that you can be successful at home doing it on your own each day. And then we usually like to follow up with people once a week in the beginning. We're reassessing, making sure you're doing things correctly. As your body changes, the exercises will change, your needs will change. Some things will continue to do because they'll be working great. Other things you may find don't work with your body. And so it's all a process, and once you get to the point where you're feeling good, your pain is under control, we start to shift our focus more towards, okay, let's get you back to the activities you wanted to do. You gave up running because your knee hurts. Well, now your knee doesn't hurt. Let's start running again, right? So, so we'll work on strength. We'll work on maintaining the good posture that you have, and generally just kind of taper off the sessions as needed until it's just kind of a maintenance, checking in like when you go to the dentist, just to make sure things are still healthy. So and it can be done on Zoom just like this, or it can be done in the clinic in Portland or here in Seattle.
Yeah, I think it's important too to mention that, your body's not like a chair where if it's broken and you just screw it back together and fix it, right? Your body is, I always say, and your exercises are a living document, right? They're constantly taking in stimulus and going through change. So to say that you're going to have the same set of exercises from now until the end of your life is like saying, hey, I got that workout from my coach when I played football in high school, and I'm still doing the same one, and I have back pain. Like, same thing. Like, you want to be upping your game with your posture exercises as you're upping your game and your demand and your goals and the things that you're doing in life. And as you're like, I have a client right now who just retired, and she's doing something all day completely differently than she did as a hygienist in a dental office for hours and hours and hours for 40 plus years, right? So her exercises are not going to be the same then as they are now. So that's just something to really think about going forward, is your eye exam, your general exam for the year, you're getting your teeth looked at, come get your musculoskeletal system looked at, know what's going on, be empowered with the information so that you can come up with a plan and get your solutions and reach your goals, right? Straighten, strengthen, straighten, strengthen, straighten, strengthen. That's the key. That's the way to function in fitness.
Right. Any last questions? We've got some comments in here. Tom just had to leave, but he said Brian did an informal posture eval and sent me to get a full one back in 2016. One of the best decisions I ever made. Yep. Been working with Tom since then, pretty much. So anyway, yeah, I put our email addresses in the chat, but you should, if you RSVP to the webinar, which I'm assuming everybody here did, you can just reply. That email goes directly to me or to Kelly, depending on where you're located. So yes, I'll be emailing the recording either later tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you know of anyone who could benefit from this information, please, we would just so appreciate if you shared the information and the wealth of knowledge that we have to offer, because I always say suffering's optional, and like, you don't know what you don't know until you know. And if people had this information, you could potentially make a huge impact in their life just by them starting these 3 exercises. How many friends or family members do you know that are also suffering and having to sit X amount of hours a day? Like, we all do, right? Just like when I read the book, I couldn't wait to help my family and friends. So yeah, feel free to forward that link to anyone and everyone. Post it on your Facebook page or social media. Go for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for all the
You're so welcome.
comments. Yeah, I hope this was helpful, and I hope to be hearing from you soon. Just give us a call or send us an email if you'd like to schedule that free evaluation or have other questions. Just let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Text us, or email us or call us and give us your results and your progress. We want to know. We want to hear.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you for being such a great participant, Ebo. And tell your wife hello.
Will do.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.